4 people that work with me, either as agents or as personal assistants or whatever you want to call it, administrative. And so I get somebody, we go on the Popeye. I don't have time. I can't do 30 Popeyes and go to Matt and Garrett and then write. Garrett has 2 kids and he just got a dog. So I tell my assistant when I get in the car.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. I've got my co-host Matt Benelli with me today, and we have a ball of energy, Ian Schwartz, with us today, who's a dear friend of mine. I've coached Ian off and on over the years. Other than that, we just have maintained an amazing friendship, and we're going to hear all about his business today, what got him here, what has built this entire business around. And the cool thing about Ian is Ian, for 28 years, has run a referral-based business. And it's one of those things, if people say sometimes, can I build 100% referral-based business? Is that even feasible? Is it smart? We're going to talk to Ian today, and we're going to hear all about how he's done that. And to give a little bit of background on Ian is closing in on $1 billion in sales here coming up. So this is an important one to listen to. Ian is like a wild animal, so we're going to kind of try to control him in here and keep him in the boundaries, but we love him. And Ian, dude, thank you. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, Matt. Good morning. I'm happy to be on. It's a beautiful day here in Chicago, and super happy to talk to you guys today.
Grateful to have you on. So Ian, real quick, so you're in Chicago, you're with Coldwell Banker, and you've been with Coldwell Banker for how many years now?
Entire career, 28 years. I could be the only real estate agent in Chicago who has never switched firms. So I started with Coldwell Banker. I've been with Coldwell Banker 28 years. You know, people always talk about the grass is always greener. I'm going over here, I'm going over there. And you know, I say wherever you go, there you are. So, and there's another agent out of Joker in my office. I think he said 100% of nothing is nothing. So, good luck with your new split over there. I've been with Coldwell Banker my whole 28 years. I love it. So yeah, they take good care of me.
I love the consistency of just knowing where your home is and saying, because so many people look at it as like, there's got to be, if I go over there, I'll get this. If I go over there, they'll get this. And a lot of it, and you've said it in our conversations, of like the beauty of owning and running your own business. The company, for the most part, is a place for you just to house your business out of and run it on your own terms. And I think what we'll get out of today is how you've approached this and how you've done this, where it really doesn't matter where you're at. It's Ian Schwartz Group is the business, is what it is. And that's what makes it
100%. Yeah, 100%. Wherever you go, I mean, it's the same thing.
So
for the most part.
So Ian, one thing that I know that's really important, and I want to kind of frame this as we get started here, is you've got important people in your world that you do this all for, and Floyd is one of them. Floyd, I think, is the pinnacle of the reason you do this, which is your dog. And then you have some other really important humans in your life. Can you give us a little bit of background of what that looks like, of why you show up the way you do?
Yeah, sure. So you're right. Floyd is number one. He's my sheepadoodle, and he was here yesterday with me at the office, and I love Floyd. So he's the first, the most important person. I also have an amazing wife, Susan. We've been married 33 years. And then I have 3 amazing kids. Emily, I have to look on my sheet here. She's 28. She lives in New York. She works for Pepsi. My daughter Sydney is 25. She lives in Brooklyn, and she works for a documentary film company. And my son Justin, happy birthday, Justin. He just turned 23 yesterday. And he works for a lab doing research. He was a biology major.
I love it.
So 3 happy, healthy kids, a wife that hasn't left me yet. So yeah, life is good. I live in Chicago. I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. I moved to Evanston, which is the first suburb north of Chicago. My dad was a radiologist. He got a job in Evanston. And then I grew up in Evanston, and then have been in Chicago ever since.
So when you say Chicago ever since, because I mean, obviously we're going to talk about building a really strong referral based business right from the beginning of starting in real estate. How many years have you been in Chicago for?
So I've been in Chicago my entire life.
Okay.
So let's see, I guess I can share my age. And I know I don't look that old, but I'm 61. And I started in real estate when I was 34. So that's 28 years. I was 34, and um I've been in Chicago since I was five, not all in real estate, and I'm happy to share, that whole transition. But yeah, I was 5 years old when we moved to Evanston, and then I've been in Evanston. It's the first suburb north of Chicago, and I've been in Chicago, uh, ever since.
So I think we should unpack a little bit before we get into your real estate of like your life before real estate. Because I think a lot of people find themselves in this worldy and where they have gone to school, they've done everything they think they're supposed to be doing, they've got the big job, the big career lined up in front of them. And as you did that, you really realized I'm absolutely miserable doing what I thought was the right thing to do. And let's just quickly kind of talk about that because you were in law before getting into real
True.
estate, and you've shared some stories with me of like it was miserable. Like talk about looking for a pat on the back and never getting a pat on the back from anybody around you, more telling you that you're worthless. What was that journey like for you? And I don't we don't spend too much time there, but what was that journey like, and what made you all of a sudden say, "I have got to change, and real estate's the answer"?
Yeah, so that's true. So I have this blue chip resume, if you will. As a young Jewish kid, I think you have three choices: doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. Indian chief wasn't a great one. My dad was a doctor. I was going to be pre med anyway. I didn't do great. Didn't love the sciences, so I got into law. Went to Northwestern Law School. Clerked for the federal district court judge in Denver, Colorado. Came back and I worked in two big law firms, and it was it wasn't fun. There was no positive reinforcement. It was a lot of yelling. It was a lot of bill more hours. It was a lot of, you could never get it right. If I wrote the brief and we got out of the case and it was a great brief and it took 10 hours, somebody would say you should have done that in 5 hours. And then I would do it in 5 hours and I would turn the brief in and they would say, "This is horrible. I can't believe you went to Northwestern Law School. What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "My kid's, going to be born tonight. Do you think maybe I could go to the hospital?" They're like, "Absolutely not. Are you out of your mind? Why would you, get the brief, put it on my desk so it can sit here for 3 weeks. And then when I come back from vacation, I'm sorry you missed your kid's birth. But by the way, your brief sucked and maybe you should have, worked a little harder." So it was not, um, pleasant. It just wasn't. And I think as a general rule, and I say this all the time, if I want Floyd to do a trick, I give him a treat. I don't hit him with a stick. And I got hit with a stick for about 34 years. And I came home and I said to Susan, "I can't do this for the rest of my life. I will shovel snow for $30,000 a year before I do this." It was miserable. And I was, but this is what I was supposed to do. And I had this education. And so, anyway, I had some friends who were in real estate. I worked also in a marketing consulting firm before I went to law school. A lot of people said, "Oh, you should, if real estate's interesting, you should go into commercial real estate." But that was the same Madison and LaSalle and Partnership. Those are two big streets in Chicago, and wearing a suit and tie and reporting to seven different bosses. And I'm like, there has to be a different way to do this, basically. So that was and I said, "All right, I'm going to give it a shot." And I looked very quickly in the Chicago Tribune, and I picked about three or four real estate offices, and I happened to call Coldwell Banker, and I got connected with their managing broker, David Hall. And I went and I talked to David Hall. And I remember I went in, I mean, I needed like a hug. I needed a physical, not man, almost a physical hug, literally, um, a hug, I guess. And I went and I talked to David, and I came in. I remember it was a cold day in February. I got in about 4 o'clock. I left there at like 6:30, and we talked for 2.5 hours. I don't think he called me an idiot once. I don't think he yelled at me during the 2.5 hours, and he might have even said a few nice things to me. And I'm like, wow, this actually could could work,
There's a
frankly.
lot to be said about a good manager, and you've talked to me over the years so much about David Hall and about things that he said to you and ways that he approached you and the things that you needed at that point in your time in your career. And I think a really good manager knows how to manage, understand who they're working with, and everything about everything you shared is like you had an amazing manager to oversee, or amazing mentor. I'll say that, not manager but mentor.
He was both. He was a manager. He was a mentor. My father, may he rest in peace. He died of a brain tumor when I was 25. And yeah, I don't. In some ways, I think David kind of stepped in as a father figure. I was a relatively young man, 34 years old. That's I don't know, Matt. You're what, like 27 or something, or yeah, something like that. So I was about Matt's age, so still young and impressionable. And he, everybody loved David Hall because he boosted you up. I mean, and I try to do that with the people on my team. I journal occasionally, and in my journal, I'm going to read this because I saw this morning, and I don't. This is 2008. It's from David Hall. Okay, it's a very quick email, and it says, "Nice new listing on Dearborn, Ian. Good for you." Smiley face. He always liked the smiley faces. "You're off to a good start, and that's because nobody works harder in this business than you do. You are truly remarkable, Ian, and I appreciate you not only for the business that you do, but for the manner in which you do it, and for the inspiration that you provide to so many other agents in the office. Here's to a great 2008!" Exclamation point, smiley face. I mean, I've kept this, and you know what? There's this never happened in the law firm.
That's why you're still a Coldwell Banker, by the way. That, like, I will say,
No,
you
it,
got
it could.
you got brought in a way that made you just go, "This is my place. I'm never leaving here." Even after David Hall has passed, he's no longer with us.
Right.
You're like, "This is my home." What an incredible way to be taken care of in an that's not done, Matt. I mean, I mean, there are a lot of managers that support their agents, but there's a lot that just say, "Hey, nice new listing."
Yeah, I mean, that was it was an amazing note. And it however personal note, whatever, an email, and it could be. I mean, I loved David Hall. I loved him. And I in preparing for this, I sent you guys at his funeral. He died suddenly, just passed away in his sleep at the age of, I think, 71. I think it was back in 2009, and I had been here about 10 years, and I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be able to go on? But I think after 10 years, he ingrained that in me. He taught me how to do the business, and he loved Coldwell Banker and our office, and that could be indeed why I'm here. I could have, we talk about, I don't know, touch points or turning points or whatever, and meeting him as opposed to another man, that it may have, literally, I don't know, saved my life is dramatic, but it gave me an opportunity to launch in this career. And the way he taught me the business, I think if I had seen somebody else, it may not have worked out,
Well,
that
I
way.
think what's interesting too about finding a great mentor, a great manager like David is there's a lot of other people that have come through your brokerage, that have come through under the leadership of David, who haven't taken what he has been putting out and then transform themselves in their business, right? So there also is a partnership in this mentorship where you obviously were receiving something that you've been looking for, transitioning out of law. But also you put in the effort. You also took advice and put it into play. And whether it was David or somebody else, I'm sure you would have found your way so awesome that you found such an amazing person. And I think there's reasons why we get connected with people like that. I think there's an energy that brings those things together. So that first 10 years of your career, putting in the effort, building a business, and I assume starting off building it around relationships, around a way to build a true sustainable business. What are the things that you took and deployed in your business to make it that way? Because just David telling you a lot of nice things is one thing, but you going out and doing the things is a whole different thing, because he wasn't going out there generating leads for you.
100. I think you're 100% correct. I had to do it. I think I had a little bit of this depression mentality. You talk about when your back is against the wall. I mean, I was 34 years old. I had a house, I had a mortgage, and I had this career in law that I didn't want to do, And I remember I came home, and this is kind of a joke, not really. And I said to Susan, I'm done with this law thing. And she's like, isn't that special, Ian? The only thing you know how to do, you don't want to do. That's just lovely. And you're 34, and we have this house and this thing called a kid, and we're pretty much screwed. So I'm like, you know what? You're right, and we are pretty much screwed, and I better do this well, or I got to go back to the law firm. And I would prefer to, I joke, they took me off the Sears Tower, with a rope, because I was about to jump, and I didn't want to do that again. So, but to answer your question, he also, I went into David Hall and I said, okay, here I am. You're a nice guy. I need to support my family. What should I do? And David Hall said, here's what you should do. And I didn't know anything else, so I followed his advice. He said, take everyone you know and put them down on a piece of paper. Okay. And write all their names and addresses. And then do three things. Stay in touch with them 3 ways. Send them stuff, call them, and see them. Send, call, see. Send being the coldest, see being the warmest. And I put them all on a list. And I remember I went to the DePaul Library, which is a university here. And I sat down and I had about 200 people on there. And I wrote them all a note. Hey, Garrett, it's Ian. I just want to let you know I've transitioned away from the law. I'm selling residential real estate at Coldwell Banker. Here's my business card. Would love to stay in touch with you. Have a great day, Ian. And I did that. And then I kept doing that. And that was it. The other thing I did, I had to build, and I'll quickly say this, I had to build my business as well. I had to bring fresh people in. So I did something called Floor Time, which doesn't exist anymore. So Floor Time is where there was no internet back in 1998. So people would drive, literally. I mean, people would drive around and they would see a Coldwell Banker sign, and they would call the office, and I'd be on Floor Time, and the receptionist would say, Ian, you have a floor call line 1, and I would pick it up, and they're like, I'm Joe Blow, and I'm sitting in front of this property on Greenview. Can you tell me how much it is? And I would say, it's this amount, and try to make some connection with them, and ideally, fax them some listings, and maybe, meet them. So I built my business that way as well.
My first deal came from Floor Time, so I'm a big fan of.
I was going to say, I did floor. It's funny that we're talking about floor like it's a key for a car. Like, remember when we used to use these to start a car? You'd actually put it in the ignition.
Exactly.
We don't do that anymore. So Ian, I think what's great with David Hall and what he taught you early on up front, like that approach to business still works today. And like when I look at like you being as consistent as you've been with your business, and everybody goes, what are the new things we should be doing? What are all the great trends and all the great stuff? It really comes back to what you were taught 28 years ago that you're still just super consistent with. And yes, through Floor and through other areas, we have to be building our database and building our people. But you had this framework up front that as new people came into your world, you just attracted them in even more by, I think, just showing up the way you show up. And you bring this energy that's like, you're not trying to be anybody else. I'll just say that right there, which I think is being so genuine to be who you are and just be unforgiving about it, like, is a very attractive thing for a lot of people. It's very refreshing in today's world.
Well, that's very nice of you, Garrett. And I'm an attractive guy, so people are attracted to me.
Energy,
And
energy,
no, it's
energy,
all
and
good. I appreciate that, but you're 100% correct. That's how I've done my business 28 years. And I'm not sure I would have I guess I would have found that. I mean, because it seems organic and I don't know if that's the right word, but it makes sense to me. I mean, you have to build your business. I believe if I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I don't think I've ever been, and it would take me 3 years to build a business. So I would find whether it would be open houses or I would join a tennis team or whatever it is that has your interest, and I would continue to add people to my life and stay in touch with them. That's how I've done it. I've never farmed. People talk. I mean, I used to live in Lincoln Park. Now I live in the Gold Coast, two nice neighborhoods. I would get 8 postcards a day from other real estate agents. What a waste of money. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not going to use them. I'm going to probably use my wife has to, confirm it, but I'm going to guess we'll probably use me if we sell our house. I mean, she might want to interview a couple other people, but what farming, I don't, an ad in Chicago Magazine, I'm going to spend $10,000. That's not how you pick people that you need. If God forbid you broke your leg, I don't think I'd go into the phone book and look for, leg doctors. I'd probably ask my primary care physician, give me a good surgeon to take care of my leg. So it all made sense to me and it continues to make sense. And that's how I run my business. I think for 28 years, I have never missed a month where I've sent something to my people. So they know who I am. And now I barely have to call and pop by anymore because it just runs itself and my phone rings all day long,
Yeah,
frankly.
when you're doing something consistently year over year, it just compounds into this effect of where you are unforgettable. So you talk about, I agree with you in terms of like, why go out for these other people when you have people right there? Unfortunately, there are some I call them orphaned homeowners out there. They don't have a realtor that they trust. But how many people do you have in your database, Ian, at this point? How many people are getting this Send Call See program from you?
Yeah, about 325.
Okay.
And it's consistently around there. And it's not, there are people with 10,000, people, and you call them and they're like, who are you? I don't know. Who are you? You're on my database. How'd you get on my database? Like, I don't know. You called me. Well, you're on my database. How do I know you? I mean, it's 325 people. Some are obviously closer than others, but that's my sphere. That's what I call my sphere of influence. Every single month, those people get something in the mail from me.
And is it just one thing or do you send more than one?
So sometimes, and we can get into this a little bit lately because of you guys, because of Garrett, when, we coached, sometimes it's more. So I used to send out, and again, I don't think it really matters. Again, I've talked about Brian Buffini, who is another real estate coach, as many people know. He had one of the first, when I first started, I would send out, I don't know, turn back your clocks, or here are the 8 places where you can go get a beer in
That's
Chicago,
good.
or Happy Spring, or whatever it is, which is fine. And then I joined. One of the reasons I joined Buffini is he has this client appreciation program where you send an actual mailing out. So it was a 8.5 by 11 envelope, and you would stick it in. You'd have to open the envelope and you'd look at it, and the same person might get three exact things from three different, realtors. And Garrett said, you got to do better than that, I think, or that's okay. They may see your name on an envelope, but it's probably not going to get open. People open their mail over the garbage can. So, and I would get things like, you've jammed my mailbox again, Ian. Can you take me off the thing? You're killing the environment. And so then, and we can talk about this a little bit, by transition in the postcard. So to answer your question, I now do, and maybe for the past 5 years because of Garrett, I transition between just listed and just solds and um, these pictures that I can get into with me and my client. So it's
Or like
probably
this beautiful
now,
view that
yeah,
I got
there's
in the mail
one. That's a
today.
picture of a property. And I probably the short answer is it's probably once every 2 or 3 weeks now. Everybody gets a postcard. I do about 100 deals a year, so that's plenty of just sold, just listed. And then I don't know, Gary, you wanted me to get into the Pint Night with
Well, yeah,
Ian deal, or
we'll get there in a second. I think it was fun to make that transition with your mailings because I watch a lot of people that they're like, well, I sent something out, but when I get it, it's in this big envelope that I now have to open. And all it takes is me one or two times of realizing there's nothing in there that I need to do anything with right now, that it ends up
yeah,
just sitting there. But it is an odd thing of like, it feels like it has value because it's thick and it's got stuff there. I feel kind of bad throwing it out. And it creates this weird energy around this piece of mail where that's why I kept telling you, I'm like, we got to transition over to postcards. I want them to see your face from across the room. Matt, you said when we were getting ready for the session today, you said, I can always tell when it's a mailing from Ian when it comes in because it's Ian's look, it's his feel. And we worked really hard on that to get, you kept sending me proof after proof after proof with white lines and different looks and different feels.
right.
And we finally landed on this look that you've just now, as we talk about being consistent, you've now just been consistent with over and over and over again. And I think we should talk about Pint Nights because this is one of your, I have a whole stack of them, Ian, on my desk right now of Pint Nights with Ian. So let's share a little bit.
Well,
What is
and
Pint Nights
before
with
you go
Ian?
into that, I want to highlight the consistency of the style. Like it, a lot of people get so particular about what should my postcard look like, and ultimately, I don't think it I mean, it does matter what it looks like. You want it to be noticeable. You want it to be memorable. Like you want to be able to know that, like, here, there's Ian on the back of the postcard. But what I notice all the time, the reason why I know it's an Ian postcard is because it's a full frame, edge to edge photo on the front, and it's been coming to my mailbox for a long time. And no one else sends me a full frame, edge to edge photograph in the mail. And so I'm like, oh, this must be an Ian postcard. And I flip it over and it is. And so whatever your style is for people who are listening, like if it's consistent, people are going to know, because there's other postcards I get from other people that aren't full frame edge to edge. They have different content maybe each month, but like it has a feeling, it has a style to it that I recognize. Like I have one here that I know that like, oh, that's John's. Like I know that's coming in. And so I appreciate the consistency part of it. And then the Pint Night, I always know because there's Ian's smiling face. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so 100% you're right. And Gary, we worked hard on that. I mean, I would send a postcard, it had a white border, then it wouldn't have a border. And Garrett's like, you have to make these the same.
Well, and the white border we were struggling with because it would the printer that you were using, Matt, it was a total accident, the white border thing, because it would come out like with a wider white border on one side than the other.
Because
And
the
it was
cutting
like,
doesn't always work, so you got to make sure that the printer's using the full bleed to get it in there.
and
So
we're
when it
like,
cuts, you
just
don't.
eliminate it. Just push the picture out,
I
eliminate
mean,
it.
and you're talking to a guy who's a little OCD, kind of perfectionist. So I'm here with my friggin' ruler measuring. Well, that's point 0.8 of an inch, and that's 0.89 of an inch, and it was driving me crazy. And Garrett's like, well, maybe you take off the border, Ian. It could save you 2 hours measuring the border every time you get a postcard. So that saved a lot of time. Um, so just listed, just sold. I think there are two things that that I want to deliver when I put myself out there. The two things people need to know: that you have good character, and they need to know that you're competent. So character and competence. So we talk about I could be at Thanksgiving dinner with my family, but if they this is their biggest investment of their life, if they don't think I'm competent, they may love me, but they're not going to list their house with me. So I think the just listed, just sold adds a lot of competence. So you'll see a pretty picture. I sold this house in Lincoln Park. It's $2.7 million. Wow, I guess he can do my $500,000 condo. And not only one, he's gotten a whole bunch of them. So then it also has to be, do I want to work with him? In other words, if he is he ethical? Is he a nice guy? Am I going to enjoy talking to him? I got to in bed with this guy for 3 months and or however long it's going to take. And so Garrett said, how, we talked about how I can present that. So, um, I'm not sure. I've always been in a, coaching and education. And at one point, somebody's like, why don't you get reviews? So after I do a closing, I call my client and I say, hey, Matt, great working with you. I had a lot of fun. Congratulations on your closing. I have a quick favor to ask you. When people get referred to me, they often Google me like you do everything. When you get referred to somebody, it has to start with a referral, but then you're probably going to look them up. So, would you mind writing a quick review for me? And people are like, I don't think I've ever talked to a client and, thousands of clients who said, absolutely not. I won't write a review. Now, not everybody does it, but I would say, um, mm, yeah, 80% of people write
And Ian, you
reviews.
give them some options, right? It's you give them like
I do. I make it super easy. I have 3 links. I don't say you have to go here, go there. I say there's, hi, hey Garrett, thanks a lot. And no, then I ask. So I always call them first, and they say yes. And then I send them an email, and I say it's very quick, and it says, "Hey Garrett, congratulations again on your closing. I really appreciate your business. I had a lot of fun working with you. As I just mentioned on the phone, it would be great if you could write a quick review and give me 5 stars. And when I'm talking, I say it doesn't have to be anything special. It could be just like, we have a life-size picture of Ian in our living room, or whatever it is for you
We
guys.
bought the action figure
He's
because it was that good.
yeah. He's on my bed, in a frame next to my wife, whatever it is. So, and then I say, here are 3 links. Click on, and I could barely turn on my computer to start our talk today. So I'm not super technological, but somebody showed me how to do 3 links. Here's Facebook, here's Google, here's Zillow. And I'm like, pick any of these and write a review. So I get a review in, and it says, Ian was amazing. We have a life-size picture of him in our living room, and he'd probably be a fun guy to have at your barbecue when you move in. Okay. And you could call him at 4 o'clock in the morning, and um, we really enjoyed him, and he was honest, and he told us really what he thought. Okay. And so that's the review. So then Garrett said, okay, you have these good reviews. Maybe we can do something. What do you like to do? And I said, well, I really like to drink, Garrett. And he's like, well, that's good. What do you like to drink? I'm like, a beer is good. And he's like, do you have clients that like to drink? I'm like, I think so. Most people, in general like to drink. And if not, they can drink non-alcoholic beer. So I started this thing called Pint Night with Ian, and I would send him a little email. There it is. And that's me and a client. And I would say, hey, Garrett, it's Ian. I've started this new program called Pint Night with Ian. It's where I take you out and you get to have a beer, or even though it says Pint Night, you don't have to have a beer. It could be a Diet Coke or a margarita, a shot of tequila, whatever you want. And we go out, and how about I come, we go out on Thursday and we'll have a quick drink and just catch up, and I get to thank you for your business. And they're like, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. And I'm like, okay, how about Tuesday at Taco and Blonde Day? Okay, great. We go there, and then I say to them, and most people know this now, I say, and here's another amazing thing. You get to be on a postcard. And they're like, whoa. That's pretty cool, or my hair's not good, or whatever. I'm like, don't worry about it. And I usually go to the waiter, and I'm like, all right, you got to take some pictures of us. And they do. And then I put it, so I go back, everything is systematized. I send it to my postcard guy. I send him the picture from my phone. I send him the testimonial. He generates this postcard, and it goes out, and there are pictures of me drinking with my clients. They're not always drinking, but mostly drinking. And we're having fun. And on the back of it, it says, Ian is amazing, and we have a life-size poster of him in our
So,
living room.
so this came about because obviously you had all these great testimonials, and I was going, okay, we got to figure out a way actually how to get these out to the world. Like, because there's nothing better than what somebody else says about you and the experience they had with you. And you kept sharing these with me. I'm like, Ian, these are gold. These are absolute gold that aren't really making it out to the general population. And I remember when you sent me the first picture of, you're like, could we use this as a postcard? I'm like, we are. That is what we were doing, dude. Like, you're moving forward with this. I have so many of these, and I think it's turned into this incredible journey because it's not about the home. It's not about you talking about, I just sold this house. And which, by the way, I love just listed and just sold. And like what you said, it's a competency piece. But this has made you a real person that I never got a chance to see of you sitting here and smiling with these people. I just want to say, well done. These have been incredible. And anybody who's listening out there, find a way, whether it's a pint night like that or some way to bring the experience of working with you to life. Because Ian, you've done an amazing job with it. That makes it so much more than that's just my realtor. And it's a huge piece.
And I want to thank you, Garrett, because that was again, you tweak things, you go from again, Buffini says the only bad Popeye is not to get out of your car. So yes, a mailing with an 8.5 by 12 where you got to open the thing and it's a standard thing it's better than no mailing, but it's certainly not as good as the postcard. And that was your idea, Garrett. So I thank you for that. And it's been amazing. I mean, literally, I went out with a buyer yesterday. I went up to their mailbox and one of my postcards was like sticking out of it. So I brought it to the front door. As I'm meeting them, they have 2 kids, both 3 years old. And they're like, oh my God, our kids love these postcards. And the 3-year-old, as and my client's like, that's Ian. And they're looking at me and, so it's just kind of fun and people recognize it. And to your point, I mean, I would do things like I sold $8 million this month and list all the addresses. And Garrett's like, nah, yeah, it's okay, but better to have a picture of a house just listed, just sold. And people don't really care whether there's 8 million a lot. Is it not a lot? Is it good? Is it bad? Why don't you try something different? And now I'm a little more relatable. And I joke with my friends. I have a lot of good friends. And every time I send one out there, they send me some texts and they abuse me and like, what's up with this? And why'd your hair look like that? And, but they're all, it's definitely a lot of, it's fun. And it doesn't always have to be a pint night. Lately, I have about 15 reviews that I got to get on postcards. And so this past weekend, and again, we can talk about visiting your clients. I did some Popeyes where I just went and I took 2 postcards, one in their backyard, the other, and unfortunately it was no drinking. But I did, I had a bottle of vodka in my car that I drank between, but it didn't make the Popeye. It didn't make the postcard. But I wasn't. That wasn't a. It wasn't a pint night with him, but it was a fun picture with him. So it doesn't have to be if you don't want to drink. I'm sorry, it's okay. I know not everybody drinks, but you can still do it if you don't.
What I love about this is it's not just a marketing piece now. This is an engagement opportunity. This is the send, call, see all together because it's calling your people and it's all tied into what you do as well. A lot of times agents are looking for like, gosh, how do I engage my people and all that stuff? Like simply calling them and thanking them for doing business with you, asking them for a testimonial. Like we overcomplicate this stuff so much when and I think you've gotten comfortable with it over the years because you've been doing it for so long. And now it's turned into this thing that also has a marketing element to it, which is wonderful. But really, you're just cycling through and engaging your people over and over and over again. And so you have quality, you have quantity in your frequency of interaction, which is really great. And you show up for your people with joy and energy. And so I want to talk about that too, in terms of how you engage your people, because we were talking before even recording about Garrett mentioned at the beginning, your business is all referral and repeat people. Like you're not farming. This is coming out of your 325 person database. There's new people coming in because they're getting introduced to you. So tell us a little bit about your evolution of that too, because you've done all the different systems too. And the funny thing is they all work. It's just finding the thing that you actually are comfortable with doing over and over and over again.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's call, send, see. I mean, and that's what I do over and over and over again. I think um and it can be hard, but it's doable hard. I talk a lot about Popeyes. You know who Popeyes? Friends Popeye. That's who pops by. It's not it doesn't have to be a big deal. I literally I send you an email or I call you and I say, "Hey, Garrett, I'm going to be in your neighborhood on Saturday and would love to pop by and say hi. How you doing?" And bring a bottle of wine or whatever it is. And I don't sit down or I try not to, because then it becomes a plot by. And people like, I really didn't need to see Ian for that long. And I missed my kid's soccer game, so it's quick. And, most people, don't draw the blinds and hide under, the bed. So that's a big,
Well,
some do.
quick is a very important point there, because I think you hit it there, and because you've been doing this repetitively, people know, oh, Ian called, he's going to pop by. They know it's really a pop by. You're not going to come in and
Correct.
sit and just
Yeah,
take over the house, right?
exactly. So I've been doing that for 28 years. It's what I do, and it's hard, but it's doable hard. So writing some thoughts about this. I'm like, I did some Popeyes on Saturday I have a summer intern, a guy who is on my platform tennis team. His kid, he's like, "Hey, can you do me a solid? My kid maybe wants to go into real estate. And he shadowed me for one day, and then, hey, can you give him an internship?" I'm sure, and I'll write a nice letter of recommendation for him. And anyway, he's a nice, young guy. He's going to be a junior in college. And I said, we're doing Popeyes today, and he also was going to be my photographer. But there are a lot of things I could have done on Saturday. I could have taken a nap. I could have worked out. I could have hung out with my wife. I could have taken Floyd for a walk. I could have watched tennis on TV. I could have played pickleball. There are a lot of things to do on a Saturday. I chose to get in a car with a nice young man with a cup of coffee, listening to your podcast or some music or whatever it is. And I'm like, let's check out Garrett and Matt, and we'll go and pop by. Is that hard? It's hard, but it's doable hard. Is it easier to take a nap? It is. It's easier to take a nap. It's easier not to do a pop by. It's too cold. You can't pop by in Chicago. There are too many condos. You can't get past the doorman. There's nowhere to park. It's too windy. I didn't shave today. My hair is off to the side. I'm just gonna take a nap today. But if you do it, and I said to the intern, I said, how many people do you think are in cars today, driving around seeing their clients? There are 50,000 realtors in Illinois. I'm going to guess one, probably me, maybe two or three. I mean, nobody is doing, I mean, maybe a few, but it's not that hard. And I'm sorry, one more thing. It's a lot easier than being in a law firm, getting yelled at by an attorney, billing hours on a Saturday because I have to finish the friggin' brief that's going to sit on his desk for 3 weeks, even though I missed my friend's birthday party because somebody is telling me I have to do that. And then 3 weeks later, he says, this brief really sucked. I can't believe you went to law school in Northwestern. What the hell is wrong with you? You're a complete idiot. I can't believe we hired.
So,
Basically.
Ian, what we're talking about here is
so I'll take the Popeye over that.
But
Sorry,
I like it's hard, but it's doable hard. But I mean, you brought up right in the beginning before we started recording. You said, "Guess how many people are actually in my office right now?" And you said how many?
Right now, it's first of all, it's god awful early, Garrett. It's like 8:30 in Chicago. Okay, I had to get up at 8:30 today. I usually get up at like 11:30 or noon. I'm like, oh my God, I have 2 cups of coffee. I'm just kidding. I don't get up at 11:30 or noon. Why I'm in one of the top producing Coldwell Banker offices in the United States. This is a powerhouse office. There are 250 agents. We're in the middle of Lincoln Park. The average sales price is, I don't know, a million, 2 million. I mean, this is a big time office, 250 agents. And I knew when I was driving here, when I got here at 8 o'clock, there was one other car in the office. And you know who it was? I'll tell you who it was. Do you want to guess?
The other top producer?
Nope. The woman who is cleaning our office.
uh,
That's who
all
it
right.
is. And it's about 8:30 now, and no one is here. So you have to. I'm like, what is everyone doing? I mean, then they come to me. Well, I can't pay my taxes. Da, 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 da. How did you sell, $4 million last month? I'm like, well, I showed up for starters. What were you doing? Well, I was sleeping my dog. I had to go to the bathroom this morning. So
So Ian, let's talk about the transition that you made, because obviously you've been 100% referral in repeat business. You've learned from David Hall. You've had lots of other mentors and coaches that are specifically around referral based businesses that you've picked up along the way. And when we first started working together, I would say one of the transitions I wanted to have you make, and it's part of the postcards, part of everything we've done, was getting you from what I would call in a pursuing type of relationship, referral-based business, to more so of an attracting relationship business. And one of them was to get you to stop asking for business every single time you were around somebody. I'm like, leave them alone. And this has been a process for you to let that go, because it's something you've done for so long. It feels very natural to you. It's very comfortable for you to say, hey, tell your friends about me if they need to buy or sell a house. What was that transition like for you to be able to let that go? And what has it done for just your business? Because it's not like you saw your business blow up because of it. Your numbers have actually stayed really consistent. It's just different energy around your business. Do you want to kind of expand on that?
yeah, I think that could be right. So when I started coaching with you, I've always done a referral based business. I've always, I think there are all sorts of different coaches and mentors and ways to go. And it's never been, let's start the cold call business. It's never been, why don't we farm this neighborhood? It's always been referral. But after David Hall, again, I mentioned I saw Brian Buffini, and Brian Buffini is all referral, but he also has this tagline on the back. And he said it's called the Big Three Dialogue. And it's number three is, oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals. And that came very natural to me. So either I would go on a pop by and I would say, oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals. And it was fine. Or I would do a little longer version, and I just rolled off my tongue and I memorized it early on. It'd be, hey, Matt, I really appreciate your business. And I really do. It's genuine. And if you know anybody looking to buy or sell, please call me with their name and number. And I promise I'll take great care of them. And they're going to love the fact that you passed on my name. And it's going to be a blessing and a great experience for them. And I would really appreciate it. And then I met you, and you're like, maybe you can take that last part off, because and I thought about it a little bit. And again, my business didn't change drastically, but I thought, maybe it becomes a little, I like the word disingenuous. In other words, if I'm going to pop by you and I say, I really want to pop by, I just want to see you. At the end of the deal, if I say, it was great seeing you, I'm glad your kids are great. Oh, by the way, if you guys know anybody looking to buy or sell, please call me and I'll take great care of them, or have them call me. And maybe the person says, that really wasn't, I mean, Ian didn't really want to just say, hey, he's here because he's looking for my business. And so it's kind of a subtle thing. And you said, I mean, you'd say, Ian, this is the difference between night and day, from morning and light. I mean, I don't know, if it necessarily is, but I do know that you don't need to do that. And I got it to the point where, I mean, for a while, every time I wrote a note, there was a little gold sticker you could on the back of it that said, "Oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals." And that went on the back of every personal note. And I would even put it in I write a lot of notes. I would put it in the note. I would say, "Garrett, congratulations on your sale. I had a great time working with you. Oh, by the way, if you know anybody else, I mean, looking to buy or sell, happy birthday, Garrett. Oh, by the way, if you know anybody looking to buy or sell, you know." So I don't know. Congratulations on your anniversary. I hope you and your wife have an amazing time tonight. Oh, by the way, if you know anybody, so it just and I remember talking. Like I said, I have three amazing kids. I was in Miami. I was walking on some vacation, and I said to my girls and my wife, "What do you like better?" And they said, "I don't think you need the oh by the way thing. I mean, people kind of know why you're there, but why throw that in there?" And so I've stopped. And so for the past 5 years, and it's a little hard to quantify because my business has always been fine, but I can say probably over the past 3 or 4 years since I started coaching with you, Garrett, I've done many fewer pop-bys, many fewer. I mean, I have a note here, 50 my job is to have 50 Ford conversations every week. I'm not sure I have that, frankly. I mean, I know I should, but the point is my business is booming right now, and it may be because I've switched to this postcard and I've taken off, this tagline, and maybe people just feel that I am,
Well, how
not
how do
pursuing
you
them as
feel about
much.
it? How does it change how you show up when you're going and doing a pop by or making a
Yeah,
call or
I
anything?
actually feel good. It feels good. It feels a little like I don't have to get this script in. It feels a little more natural. And again, I never had a major issue, with it, but this feels a little more genuine. And um, I don't know. And I worked on this for a long time with Garrett, and we had many discussions about the theory behind it, and do you have to say this, and whether you say this, and
Many,
and
many,
I'm not doing it.
many conversations,
Uh,
Ian. Many
many
conversations of the theory.
many kind of like, what's the theory behind it, and let's analyze this, and because it wasn't my business. So the answer is I feel great about it, and it's still organically happens. I was on a Popeye again over the weekend with a guy, and we made I'm like, by the way, you have to be on a postcard now. And it was 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, rather than just sit on some couch, do you have any beer? And he's like, I don't have any beer, Ian. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, well, we need to do something so it looks like we're having fun. And he said, how about I make some tonic water with limes and we can cheer? So it was kind of fun. We sat down. At no point did I say, oh, by the way, if you know anybody, but we were just doing forward family occupation, recreation, dreams, having a conversation, shooting the shit, and there I said shit. That's my one swear word. I think I'm
I'm
doing well.
impressed so
I'm
far, Ian.
impressed.
Yeah. So anyway, and he said, how's your job? Whatever. And he said, yeah, I think I'm gonna retire in about 6 months. And of course I'm gonna be calling you then. There was no discussion about real estate. There was, occasionally they say, how's the market? But there was none of that. So it
Yeah.
all felt very natural. So to answer your question, it feels great, and I clearly don't need it. And so Garrett, well, when we were talking, you're like, well, a lot of people, they feel very nervous about asking for the referral, or it puts them off. Can you do a business without asking for the referral? And the answer is 100%. Absolutely. I don't think I've asked for a referral in 5 years. And Garrett, I don't know if I think this is a good time for your story that you really kind of drilled home with me when you were, and it really made me think about, this is something really that I need to think about a
Well,
little
it's
more.
funny, as I was saying, we had many conversations around the theory. You say, like, I don't know if it's night and day difference or whatnot, but we had an experience where this is where Ian kind of like had this moment of like, maybe there's
I
something I
did.
should be thinking about here. But we had my daughters were just getting into school. We were just building, our network of people, and I was kind of in that moment of just moving to Reading, and I was very excited about this new school the girls were going to. And one of the moms said, we should get together for dinner. And I said, that would be awesome. Like, why don't you just come to our house? And my energy behind it was like, isn't this cool? Like, we're building network, we're building friends, we've got this relationships going on now. This is what my life's going to be like. And we had this amazing dinner sitting in my front room in this house here. And about, oh gosh, at the very end of the dinner, she said, hold on a second, I got something I want to go grab. And she ran out to her car and she came back with this huge binder. And she says, have you guys ever heard of Arbonne? And I was like, I have no idea what Arbonne is. But my wife kind of like her eyes crossed and she was like, oh my gosh, I know where this is going. And she instantly flipped this thing over and she was recruiting us to be salespeople for Arbonne. She goes, I think you guys would be great. And then all of a sudden I put the pieces together. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what's happening right now. We never had dinner with them ever again. I was enjoying them so much. It was such a great experience. And then all of a sudden this energy got shifted where it was like, you didn't want to get together with me because you wanted to build a relationship and a connection and a friendship. It probably would have led to that down the road if all of a sudden I learned what she was doing and what was there and what her passion interest was. But it was so off-putting up front. And I remember sharing that story with you and you were like, okay, I now see how we can reframe this. And this is where a lot of your postcards changed. That's where you stopped giving your list of all the sales you had for the year and here's what I've done. And it's also where you leaned into these pint nights with Ian and really sharing these testimonials was you started making it all about them and not about Ian and not about your business. And people want to do business with people they trust and they like. And you, again, as I've said, your energy is contagious, man. And that's why I was like, I kept looking at you and just going, if we can just lean into your energy and your true person, you're going to continue to have an amazing, amazing referral-based business. Just a lot less stress, I feel.
No, I mean, for sure. And that story, even when you're telling that story now, when you get to the end of it, I felt like, a little, I don't know, sick to my stomach is a little bit too much, but I could see how it's like really disappointing because you're like, we're trying to build a friendship with these people. They're on my kid's soccer team. Isn't it cool that they're having us over for dinner? And I just, moved to the community. You're having them or whatever it is. And then to come out with, oh, by the way, how about you become a salesman and sell some Tupperware for me? And you're like, they didn't want to see us. And even if they did, it just kind of was icky. It's just not a good feeling. And that story kind of stuck with me. And maybe it's the same thing. You go on a Popeye, or you're at a Pint Night and you're having fun, and then the check comes or whatever, desserts are like, oh, by the way, why don't we talk about you referring business to me? And I make my business, I do a referral based business. So it's really important that you refer people to me. That's like, is that why we're having
But
dinner,
here's the
Ian?
interesting thing, Ian, and I think that not to tarnish that at all because it worked for you for a long time. You built an amazing referral-based business around that. It is a system that works really, really, really well. I think it's like finding your groove in building this referral-based business, and this was kind of like an opportunity just to kind of change the path of what a referral-based business could look like. But you've said it, where you're like, is it really, or are we getting into semantics about all this stuff? Because really at the end of the day, it's probably more that you've consistently shown up in these people's worlds, been around them, been involved with them. Like that's the meat of it. Like that's the core of what's made this referral-based business work for you.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And if you look at my numbers year after year, and we can get into that, but to your point, it's not like I was doing, I do probably between 30 and 60 million dollars of sales a year consistently year after year after year. So when I look at my numbers, it's not like, well, in 2000, from 1998 to 2000, I was doing 30 million. And then I stopped saying, oh, by the way, and it went to 60 million. Okay. It's been consistent. And again, that goes back to the only bad Popeye is not to get out of your car, frankly. So these are nuances. And you have to be consistent and you have to be there. And I was never so silly is to say, okay, now we're done with dinner. Let's talk about me and let's talk about how you can improve my life. And you really need to be referring 5 people to me in the next month. It was almost a little more, oh, by the way, I had a lot of fun with you. And if you know anybody looking to buy or sell, but even that part of it, I felt at the end of the day, felt a little disingenuous. I'm not going to bring out an Arbonne book or whatever the hell that is, but that story hit home with me, Garrett. So to your point, I've always done a referral based business. It's always been fun. It's always been connecting with people. It's always been easy for me, and I've always worked really hard on it because I never want to go back to being a lawyer, as we discussed. But whether you say, oh, by the way, or not, I just think it's a slight tweak, just like the postcards, were a slight tweak that is probably, I think the jury's still up, but the last 5 years, I don't know, maybe I've done 15, 20 Popeyes. I mean, not a lot, but more than that, I guess. But my business is still
The
flourishing.
interesting thing with a real strong referral based business, Ian, is, and I've always talked about like a flywheel, is that you get this flywheel spinning and you just keep, every time you show up genuine, every time you show up in their world, it's a little bit of energy to the flywheel. There's a certain point that that big old flywheel is spinning at such a rate that you can step back, take your hands off everything. And it's just like, why is the business still coming in for Ian? He's not doing all the stuff. He's not showing up and doing all the Popeyes. Well, it's because he's created this machine that just people know him. He is their realtor. He's the realtor the kids are going to use. It just keeps going. And you've done a great job of spinning that flywheel and keeping it going for 28 years. You've done it with your database.
Yeah, it's a long time. That's it's a long time, and I appreciate that. And it's true. And my business is that flywheel is spinning very fast right now, and it enables me to do. If I do want to go on Saturday, if I do want to work out or take Floyd for a walk or play pickleball, I can. Maybe earlier on in my career, like I said, I was doing floor calls for 8 hours Saturday, 8 hours Sunday, maybe 15 years ago, I would go and literally do 30 Popeyes on a day. And people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? Well, I had somebody in my car and we were going from one place to another. They were never a Popeye. I was coming in, I was coming back to my car. My assistant, I was saying, all right, Garrett's daughter, she's playing soccer here. Matt just had a second baby. They got a dog named Sally. Write it down, put it in in my Outlook. It's not fancy. And then I would write a note, hey, good luck on your soccer thing. And then I'd come back again and, say, how's soccer? I'm just making the connections. And it was very, very, simple. And now it just runs. It just
I want to
runs.
touch on that for a moment, is your system of how you communicate with your people, because this is where a lot of people get tripped up. They're like, I need a complicated CRM. I need this, I need that. And you just said, I go talk to my assistant. I say, here's the things I learned. That gets put in a contact record. And then you must have a reminder then. So just walk us through like how you learn something about somebody. How do you remind yourself to send that note? And then how do you follow up on that? What is your system for the recurring communication with your people so that you don't miss out on those opportunities to congratulate your client on their son's, soccer game or whatever it is?
Yeah. So, again, if you're doing 30 Popeyes, you got to move quick. So I usually grab one of my, assistants. I don't have a big team. I have about 4 people that work with me, either as agents or as personal assistants or whatever you want to call it, administrative. And so I get somebody, we go on the Popeye. I don't have time. I can't do 30 Popeyes and go to Matt and Garrett and then write, Garrett has 2 kids and he just got a dog. So I tell my assistant when I get in the car, all right, it's on Garrett's sheet. He has 2 kids and his daughter plays soccer. You have 3 kids, I know. Anyway, they write it down and they put it in Outlook. I mean, I barely know what the initial CRM or CMR, whatever it is, stand for. Okay. Contact management system. I don't know. I don't even know what it is. All I know is I have Outlook. I know how to work Outlook. So you have an entry, Matt and Garrett, you're in my Outlook. All right. So maybe I'll write, I did a podcast with Matt and Garrett on this day. So it's in my Outlook. So I literally go in the notes section of my Outlook and I put, They have kids. Whenever I get referred to, whenever somebody refers me, I always write a personal note. David Hall taught me that, before they close, right away. Hey, Matt and Garrett, thank you very much for referring Sally to me. I really appreciate your trust and confidence in me. I'll take great care of her. It's a good life, Ian. Oh, and by the way, and I don't say by the way, but here's a Starbucks gift certificate. Go get a coffee on me or whatever, and I say thank you, and it's a short thing. And then I put it in their Outlook. Matt and Garrett referred me to Sally Jones in August 2025. And then in Sally Jones's Outlook, I put she referred me to Matt and Garrett. And, and then every time I have a closing or somebody's anniversary, it goes in my calendar again in Outlook. It's not complicated. So I can bring up today's date, and if it's the 6th of the month, so there may not be as many closings as the 31st, but I probably have 5 things on it. 2004, Matt and Garrett purchased 123 Green Street. It's Sally and Joe's anniversary. It's Floyd's birthday. Okay. And so then and if I have time or I feel like it, or if I'm driving around, I'll just look and see whose birthday it is. There's not necessarily a science to it. It's whoever I'm feeling warm. And I may call Garrett and say, hey, Garrett, happy anniversary. And he'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? It's not my anniversary. I'm like, yeah, it is. In 2004, we sold 123 Green Street. It's like, my God, Ian, that was 23 years ago. I mean, I've lived in 4 other houses since then. I'm like, I know, but this is your anniversary from them. Why don't you take your wife out for dinner tonight? Surprise her with some flowers. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And so it's just because it's in my little Outlook. It's not a fancy system. It's in my calendar.
And so do you also have a routine where you go and review your contacts and look at those notes, or is it just the calendar dates that come and remind you then to go look at more detail and then set up another reminder to go call them on a different day or whatnot?
Yeah, so it's really not much of a routine, to be honest with you. And I am so busy working, I guess, in my business that I don't have a lot of time to work on my business because the flywheel is spinning. So it's not like I come in and from 8 to 9, I make, maybe in the perfect morning or whatever you do. If you get up at 4 a.m., like I said, I get up at, noon. So I don't have that 8 hours of luxury. But the short answer is I don't have a specific system. It's more, what am I feeling today, or something pops up. But it's usually if I'm negotiating 4 deals and I got 3 listings I got to put in,
That's
that's
getting the attention.
usually what I'm working on. Although I'll be able to occasionally look down and say who's this, who's warm, who's whatever, and make a call. But it's not a system where every 2 weeks or every morning you come in and your assistant has 10 calls that you have to make, and these are the people you have to
This
call.
gets into an interesting place because we have trained and coached for so many years, Matt, of like you got to have these time blocks that you show up and you do these pieces. And I know I have some really powerful agents that I coach that are like, it doesn't feel genuine when it's this time block. Like I just feel like all of a sudden like I'm forcing myself to make a phone call to this person. And I think Ian, you're kind of a prime example around this of like, it you are very good of in the moment at knowing I've got like you actually care to go. I have people I want to talk to, and in that quick moment of I'm driving in the car, I'll pick up the phone and make a phone call right now, or I'll quickly write them a handwritten note. Is that because it's not scripted and because it's not a time that you just go and do that, it actually shows up really genuine. Like your heart comes through in your conversations of what you're doing. Not it's time to call Garrett, so I'm going to call Garrett today.
Well, and I'll highlight the biggest key there is having the notes of your people. I think because that is a system, Ian. Like that is a system that you have set up,
100%.
right? I mean, it's whether it's time blocked or not. If you know about your people and you feel it, you make the call. And if it's in an hour where you're like, hey, this is where I'm going to make my feel good calls, like, cool. If it's, hey, I got to do this whenever I can because my business is churning, like
Yeah,
even
no,
better.
That's true, and I will say on the weekends, often I do block out those times. So, and usually it's Popeyes, like I said, and I'm going to say, okay, from 9 to 3, I'm going to pop by, and because it is a system, and because I say, all right, hi Garrett, I'm going to be in your neighborhood this afternoon. Would love to pop by and say hi. That text that I usually send out, I mean, not that many people answer the phone. It almost always gets a response. Not always, but if I send out you got to do it the day before so they can pick their underwear off the floor and, whatever. And give them a little notice, not just show up, hey, I'm going to be in your neighborhood. That is a system. And then I can go to their Outlook contact and say, here are Garrett's kids, here are Matt's kids. So I do that. And that's probably, again, seeing is the warmest, send, call, see. So I think that's given me a lot of value. But I work on it too, and I work on can I put my phone, and I did this a lot with Garrett. I've done this a lot over my career. Can you turn off your ringer and put your phone in your desk? I mean, I am not, let's be honest, I'm not a heart surgeon. I am not some psychologist where my person's going to jump off a building. I am not a an attorney representing some guy that's about to go to jail if I don't call him in 5 minutes. We're selling real estate, okay? It can wait an hour. It can. It can wait an hour. I can go work out with my trainer and put my phone away, and in an hour, life will still be there, frankly. I mean, if it's an emergency, somebody is going to come find me. If God forbid something's wrong with my kid, somebody's going to walk in here and knock on your door and say, your wife is calling you, you need to pick up. I mean, and she never picks up when I call her. I love you, Susan. She never. Why would she? She's like, why would I pick up? I'm in a business meeting. And my wife's she does high-end interior design. I'm calling her all day. She's like, you're hammer dialing me. I'm like, well, I wanted to let you know Floyd's poop was really solid this morning. And she's like, I'm in a meeting, Ian. So she doesn't pick up, and nothing's ever happened. So I think there's a way but you have to force yourself, to do it
Yeah,
sometime.
you definitely do. I love it.
But anyway, yeah, it's a system. Everything I do is systematized. Every single thing is a system. There is nothing. It may not be a calendar where I say 8 to 9, I'm doing calls, 9 to 10, I'm working out. I mean, I do have blocks 3 times a week when I work out. 10 to 11, I'm getting, my haircut. 11 to 12, I'm, working on my eyebrows or whatever I'm working on that day. My eyebrows are fine. That's usually not something I need to block out. But it just but everything's a system. How I do everything is a
I
system.
love it. Well, you can't have predictable results if you don't have a system to back it up. And you everything you've shown us. I mean, you send over every single year since you've started in real estate your production numbers. And for the most part, it grew every single year. And then it kind of hit a level where you just run an incredible business that's just super consistent. And again, but you can't do that without systems. Otherwise, you're just all over the place. Even through the good years and the bad years of what we would call real estate, Ian, you had a consistent business, which is just incredible, which is, again, I kept telling people there's a lot of business to be had out here in those down years, 2008, 2009, 2010. And if you just showed up and you're in people's worlds, people needed help. I mean, prime example. So
100%. I mean, this note from David Hall was 2008, and I started in 1998 when, I think Floyd could have done very well selling real estate. So that was kind of fortuitous because for the first 8 years, you would sell the house in 5 minutes, you would sell the next one for 50 grand more. It was crazy wild. So that was fortuitous. I think it was a good time to start. And then in about 2007, the bottom, dropped out. And we had the Great Recession, 2000, whatever, 8, 9, 10, where there were short sales. And I didn't know what a short sale was, frankly. And then, and so a bad year for me was maybe, $25 million as opposed to $50 million. So, and then it just kind of started again. And I've never had a bad year. I mean, my first year, I was rookie of the year. I sold 8 million, then I sold 12 million. I have the numbers, 8, 12, 19, 18, 17, 28, 33, 30, 30. I mean, they're all very consistent.
So like I want to just showcase, and then let's see where we want to go here. But 2006, which was a really strong year for a lot of people, 33 million. 2007, 32 million. 2008, which these are the years that really handed people their butts. You still had 31 million. In 2009, you had 28 million. Like, you had that consistency through that time, which was pretty impressive. I think the only time you saw a little dip there was 2010 and really 20 million. But then you went right back up to, back into the 30s, and then to 2014, a $53 million year. Like, very, very, very consistent. And so with all that being said, we have covered so much here today. And Matt, is there any last things that we need to put on the plate here before we wrap this up?
I mean, I think this is incredible, Ian. Like, what you've shared, I think hopefully inspires a lot of people. I'll ask you this one final question, which is, I mean, you talked about when you started, you just got into it, you started doing things. And so for an agent who's listening, who might be in a position of like, gosh, that would be great if I had 325 people on my database. That would be great if I had, the funds to hire an assistant who can sit in my car and relay my stuff. What advice would you give to that agent who doesn't have that resource now, but because you obviously didn't have that all the time? What advice would you give them to start doing the things that would get them to the consistency where they can have those resources?
Yeah, I would say the system works, and I'm living proof of it. I am, I think Thomas Jefferson said the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. Okay. You have to show up. If you want it bad enough, and if you write all the people on a list and you send them notes and you call, send, see, it works. And you don't have to do 33 million. I mean, you can sell $5 million a year and have a decent living doing this. So I would say trust the system, do the system, but you got to show up and you do it. And it's making that decision on Saturday morning when you can sleep in or go to the movies or take a nap, or can I get in my car and go listen to a good podcast, have a cup of coffee, and go see people. Yes, it's a little awkward. They may not know, but that's easier than getting abused in your former job or whatever it is. And so if you can push yourself to do the work and show up, you be the guy who's in the office at 8 o'clock with the cleaning lady. Okay. You show up, and you show up at night. And then at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can go play pickle if I want.
Well, I wanted to.
So I would say it's hard, but it's doable hard. And I would say this business is a very fair business, and you get out of it exactly what you put into it, in my opinion. And if you don't have 325 people, you got to add people, whether I would probably do a lot of open houses now because there is no floor call. And there would be 25 people that have taken time out of their days to come to a house, to look at a house. Maybe you get one person out of the 25 and do it 4 times on a weekend, and join. I like tennis, join a tennis club. You like bridge, join a bridge club. Do stuff that you like. Stay in touch with people. You have to add people to your database. Be faithful. Get their names and numbers. Send, call, see, and like I said, I think I could go to Tulsa, Oklahoma with no business and have a very vibrant business in 3 years just by doing these systems. So I
Right.
would say you got to show up, you got to do the work. And if you do, this can be very rewarding from a financial standpoint, from a time standpoint, from a freedom standpoint, from I can actually go to the hospital if my kid is being born tonight, as opposed to writing a brief. And that was a beautiful thing for me. And I actually got to go to the hospital for all of my kids' births, actually, which was pretty
That is good.
amazing.
That is
I
good.
didn't have to write any briefs, amazingly.
I love it. I love it.
Well,
Garrett, anything else you want to add before we
no, I think we focused a lot today on the systems and the business and showing up. And I know, Ian, you talked about working on weekends, and I don't want to open up a huge thing here, but I also want people to know, Ian, you have an amazing life outside of real estate. I called you the other day and you're like, I'm heading to Portugal right now. I'm sitting right now in this airport and going here with my family. Between all the phone calls that we've ever had where you're like, I'm leaving this right now and I'm meeting with my paddle group and we're going to go play paddle, and your passion around that and the people in your world that I think you've incorporated. I think this goes back into a lot of a referral type relationship style business, is that when you're working, you're not working. When you're not working, you are working, because you're just around the people that are in your database and you love and you have connections with. And I think it all goes hand in hand. So yes, we talked a lot about working today, but you really have done a great job of also just creating an incredible life for yourself that you can enjoy.
Well,
So
I appreciate that, and that's true. And I do work hard. I mean, I don't think there's any substitute for that. But I think it's fun. I actually enjoy working. I mean, it's working is not working for me. Working is I'm hanging out with people. I'm enjoying. I'm having fun. I like the freedom. I like the ability to do whatever I want to do, and I do have an amazing life. I spend a lot of time with my dog, with my wife, with my kids. I'm a big tennis fan, as I've mentioned. I am going to the Cincinnati Open, which is this big tournament that's right before the U.S. Open. That's in a week. I'm going to go there with usually one of my kids goes. I'm going with a buddy. I'm gonna be there for, you know, 3 days. You go in, you start at 10 a.m. and you have a honey deuce. And I've had about 5 honey deuces by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm sitting in the sun and I'm watching tennis, and I love, and then my business affords me to do that. And I might do some deals there. I may between tennis serves, I might look at my phone and sell a house and get a commission check for $25,000. I mean, it's just all part of it. But if I don't want to, I don't have to. If I don't want to, answer my phone, I won't. And no one's gonna die and nobody's gonna jump off a bridge, I don't think. So I have a lot of friends. I like to work out. I like the freedom. What am I going to do today? I think I'm going out with a client this afternoon. Then I may go sunbathe at my club for a while, and then I think I'll hang out with my son and Floyd tonight. And my wife's in the Hamptons with Emily and Sydney, and Justin and I are having a boys' deal, and so Floyd and Justin and I may have a few. I had a whiskey pig last night. Not that I'm a big drinker, but it was that whiskey pig, or yeah, it's like a $400 bottle of bourbon that one of my
oh
clients
geez.
sent me. So very smooth. So I may do that later. So there is a lot of work, but there's a lot of
Ian,
fun
I want to
as
say
well.
thank you, man. I have appreciated our friendship and our connection that we've been able to have over the years. You're a phone call that I always love seeing and receiving when it comes in on my end. And dude, just keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate you tons. I appreciate your
I
time today
appreciate it.
tremendously.
Ian, if people want to connect with you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so you can Google me. My first name is spelled IAN. My last name is spelled SCHWARTZ. You can call me on my cell phone. I know some guy gave out their number, and you're like, oh my God, you're giving out your number. I'll give out my number, 312-953-1216. My email is ian.schwartz@ianschwartzgroup.com. Feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk to me. I also want to say I appreciate you guys. I feel like I know you a lot better than you know me, because I am always listening to you guys. You are always on my, it's either that or Dateline, and people think that's really weird that I listen to, murder mysteries, but it's either that or Dateline. When I get in my car, I'm always trying to get educated. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you do. I think you're very genuine, and you are who you are. I mean, and there's no pretending with you guys, and that's really helped me. The postcard thing was really powerful. This Pint Night with Ian was really powerful, and switching from an oh by the way to a not oh by the way, I think has really been really good for me. So thank you. I'm going to continue listening and trying to, stay in touch with you guys as well.
Well, thank you, Ian. I appreciate you so much. Really appreciate you sharing all of this incredible wisdom with the audience today. I know that people have hopefully taken a lot of notes. And guys, if you want more from Garrett and I, just like Ian has been getting, come check us out, life@10tenths.com. We have an incredible group coaching program called the 11 Circle. We do have one-on-one coaching available as well, if that's something you want to do, or you can just pop in for some extra content into our inside track, but it's all there for you at life@10tenths.com. We'd love for you guys to join us, download our app, get into our community. We love sharing the experiences just like Ian has shared with you guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in again, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, guys.